You're listening to international investment advisor Doug Goldstein on the Goldstein on Gelt show, the financial show where we'll talk about how you can make the most of your money. With all the confusing financial chatter bombarding you each and every day, Goldstein on Gelt will give you the practical information you want and need about living a financially stable life. Here's your host, money maven Doug Goldstein.
Okay, we are back. We are very happy to once again welcome Vicky Ward. Vicky is the author of The Devil's Casino, the New York Times and Wall Street Journal best-selling book about the collapse of Lehman Brothers. She's also a contributing editor to Vanity Fair, has some pieces coming up, so be sure to check that out. And she's currently working on the history of the General Motors building, but really about the history of the psychology of General Motors itself. Vicky, I'd like to welcome you back to the show.
Thank you very much, Doug.
On CNBC, you recently spoke about the glass ceiling in terms of women in journalism. As a leading woman journalist, do you encounter any sort of discrimination like that?
Well, I don't encounter it in my own workplace at Vanity Fair. In fact, far from it. But the world of magazines is notoriously sort of run by women. We happen to have a fantastic male boss in Graydon Carter, but he is a champion of women and of minorities. So diversity actually within Vanity Fair and within my publishers. The woman who published my book was Pam Van Gieten. So the people behind me are actually very much they're either women or women supporters. Where I find discrimination is when I go out and I investigate my stories, whether it's the book on Lehman Brothers or other stories. People often assume that because I'm female and I didn't necessarily go to Harvard Business School or work at Goldman Sachs, so therefore I don't understand what they're talking about. And in a funny way, this actually works tremendously to my advantage. So they start talking far too freely, and I completely understand what they're talking about. And in fact, they give me a better story as a result, but they don't mean to. They take one look at me and they see this blonde, girl who they think is charming and British and can't add up. And I don't. In all honesty, there were some people who said to me after I'd written the Lehman book, well, if they'd realised that I had understood half of what they were saying, they wouldn't have said it. So, unquestionably, perceptions matter. And, I'm glad I was writing about Lehman Brothers and could use this to my advantage than actually working for them. Having said that, of course, as I noted in my book, the irony about Lehman Brothers was sort of all the banks on Wall Street, it had the most cutting-edge diversity program, and its ideals were really fantastic in the way it wanted to promote women, minorities, from the recruitment level, and it had a very radical idea about how to do that, and therefore it was a tragedy that they went and ruined the whole thing.
When you say it was a revolutionary idea that they did, what was revolutionary about that?
Well, they went to universities instead of looking at Harvard, just at Harvard, and all the Ivy League and Harvard Business School, the places where everyone else recruits from. They went and looked at the top students at universities where people, in America they call them schools, being British, I call them universities, where everyone else wasn't looking, but where the students were actually, their grades were just as good, and they were hungry. And they found there, they could find minorities, they found women, and I think that their program was really lauded. And in fact, I had dinner with someone who used to work for Lehman on a Saturday night, who said it really made him feel, and he was a he, It was a married he with a family, 2 little boys and a wife. It really made him feel that Lehman was a special place to work, which was why it was so disastrous. You know, that if you're going to start a cutting-edge program like that, which is everyone's watching to see if it succeeds, and it was successful until they went and put the wrong woman in the wrong job, in the most visible job in the firm. And so you've got to be so careful when you do these programs that if you're then going to tell the rest of the world they're better than everyone else's, and they may well be better than everyone else's, that then if you're going to you've got a very visible role and you want to fill it with someone who's not a white male, that the candidate is absolutely top-notch, absolutely top-notch. And, you know, I noticed, I was at college with a woman called Blythe Masters, about whom a book has been written. She's been credited as inventing the credit derivative, which actually she did with a team of people, and she now runs commodities at JP Morgan. And you know, she's very tough and she's very good. And unlike Erin Callan, you know, if she was to give an interview to the Wall Street Journal or announce anything publicly, she's not the kind of woman to make a mistake. And I'm sure her boss, Jamie Dimon, knows that. But I was reading a profile of her in the Wall Street Journal recently, and if it had been about a man, you would have said, well, he sounds very talented and very interesting, and, you know, you would have thought, I'll remember that name, that's someone who's clearly going places and carried on. But because it was about a woman, it somehow made her sound as if she was slightly unbalanced, that she got where she was by not being a normal person.
Well, I think that a lot of people do sometimes wonder, let's say that you do have two not quite equal candidates, but then they see that the woman gets the job because of some sort of program that the company might have. Do you feel that people are suspect that this might be happening?
Yes, I think always women have to work harder to be just the same as men. They have to work twice as hard to get, that very old cliche, to be exactly the same place. But I remember the same thing happened, going back to the profile on Blythe, the same thing happened with Linda Wachner, who's the head of a huge company. I remember at the time, I was sitting with a bunch of women, including Tina Brown, and we were saying, if this had been written about a tough guy, no one would have blinked. But because, but women, some still in this day and age, when they're covered, are not allowed to be tough. Somehow that makes them look non-female, which is a huge problem.
Well, it is a problem. A lot of people and a lot of news these days is getting transferred via social media. You yourself have a Facebook page where you announce what's going on. Doesn't that make it a little bit less relevant what gender someone is simply because of the democratization of the way news is distributed?
Yes and no. Yes and no. I hope in the end that you're right. I hope in the end, yes. On the other hand, the problem with social media is that there's so much garbage now out there that
is true.
Some of it, actually reinforces the female stereotype. Sometimes I go online and I see some of the inane things that are being tweeted, sort of by women. Today I got up and I bought a pair of shoes and I just sort of put my head in my hands and think, oh no. They have every right to say that, but I don't know at the, I think like everything, it's too early to say. I don't think we're at the moment. The problem with social media is that people blog too quickly. People think that because the tool is out there to react, that therefore they must react.
Well, my mother always taught me there must be a very good reason that we have 2 ears but only one mouth, which is so quick to use the mouth.
And I think when people start to realize that actually everything, the thing about the internet is once you've put it out there, you can't take it back. And therefore, you can't sort of blog as if you've got Tourette's, because whatever, if you have a knee-jerk reaction to something that might be a very complicated political crisis, and you decide to say, this is terrible, blah, 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 and then 3 days later you change your mind, it's too late.
Right.
And I think that one of the things, in fact, I've talked to Arianna Huffington about this, is that you want to be, people need to, and I don't think it's happening at the moment. I think now people blog about, what they had for breakfast in the morning, and frankly, it's completely uninteresting. I think I'm looking forward to the period when people start to blog much more thoughtfully, and we don't need to know what they had for breakfast that morning, because actually, not only is it boring, but it sort of is. I don't know. I think part of the living is part of the point of sort of being alive, is discovering the mystery of other human beings. And once you know what hour they get up, they clean their teeth, the rest of
it certainly dilutes what else might be out.
It makes them a good deal less interesting.
Yeah. We are talking with Vicky Ward. Vicky is the best-selling author of The Devil's Casino, and I'm hoping that her next book about the history of General Motors will also be a bestseller, because everyone certainly should read what she's got going out there. And she also regularly contributes to Vanity Fair as a contributing editor. And she's been giving us a little background, because this week is there's an important conference that's going on regarding women's issues, and she's really at the forefront and a model of success with how a woman can really become at the forefront of her career. Unfortunately, we're just about out of time. But Vicky, I just wanted to ask, is there any spot that you think people could, follow your work, or perhaps just learn a little bit more about the women's roles in the world of journalism, which is really where you're focusing?
Yes, well, I think to go to your point, obviously my website, vickyward.com, and my Facebook page. In fact, I have 2 pages, one more for my work and one more for sort of personal things, but I actually post on both, because in some ways on the personal page, people friend me who I don't know, but I get to hear their stories. But also I think that this conference that is being held in New York this week, Bill Clinton is headlining the Thursday dinner. It's a conference that's been put together by Diane von Furstenberg, who, like me, is at Vanity Fair, and Tina Brown at the Daily Beast, and 3 others. And there are some really fascinating topics that we will all get into. Arianna will be there with Tina talking about women in media. There'll also be women and the role of trafficking of girls, women in the third world, China. Wendy Murdoch, it'd be very interesting to hear what she has to say on what women want. It's going to be a very interesting conversation with Condoleezza Rice and Madeleine Albright. And I think that, new ways to lead, and one particularly interesting, the marzipan layer, why women are stuck in the middle. Micah Brzezinski from Morning Joe is going to moderate that, and I will really, really look forward to that. So I think, and there's also, national security in women, also all sorts of things that really, really matter.
Can we count on you blogging and writing a little bit of what goes on for people to learn?
Absolutely. No, I really do care about it. I would just say the final note, Doug, that the great difficulty, every time I talk about this subject, the great difficulty that there is for women is that women have, it's the children question. And until men accept that the most talented women are probably going to go off for a very short period in a long career span and have a baby, and they might be out, or they might be working shorter hours for a couple of years, and but the investment in them is worth it for the long term. Until men accept that and are prepared to put up with it, we can't get through that glass ceiling.
Right.
and it's very short-sighted on the part of men not to realize. I mean, look at Margaret Thatcher. When did she, she became Prime Minister, she reached the peak of her career when her children were grown up. And she waited till her 50s, 60s. So it's very short-sighted of a company to discriminate against women just because for a few years they need to be with their small children. Because children grow up. And then you don't want to have lost possibly the best person available to you because you were too short-sighted to see that she would be coming back, and she'd be coming back and then some.
Okay, Vicky Ward, that is a great note to leave on. I want to thank you once again for joining us, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Thank you so much, Doug. Take care.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Goldstein on Gelt Show with money maven Doug Goldstein. Doug's weekly radio show is heard around the world, but if you miss it, you can download the podcast at www.goldsteinongelt.com. The Goldstein on Gelt Show gives you up-to-date financial ideas so you can get on the path to financial freedom. If you'd like your questions answered on the air or off, send Doug an email to doug@profile-financial.com. It's your money for your future, so join Doug every week to build your wealth on the Goldstein on Gelt Show.